Hi, welcome to this bite-sized talk. I'm Sanjay from onHand, and today we're talking about waste and reusing. Today I'm with Craig from the Reuse Network. He's the CEO there, and I'm also with Luke, the marketing director at Domestic in General. Hi, guys.
Hello.
All right, really first easy question is, what is the Reuse Network? I'll ask that one to Craig.
Okay. I'll start by looking at what's the difference between reuse and recycling. And every product that you discard is different. So it has different end uses. So what you put into your black bin or into your recycling boxes outside your homes on a weekly basis, that is in the main packaging materials that that can only go for recycling. Really, you don't really reuse an empty can of beans, the plastic bags and things like that. Well, you can't reuse plastic bags. Bad example. But what we talk about with reuse is products that people don't have any economic value to them anymore. They want a new sofa. They want a new fridge. The old one's broken. They can't afford to fix it. Those are the products that we deal with, the larger household essential items to make your house a home. And in the main, many people can go out and buy a new product, a new sofa, a new fridge, a new table, a new chair. Many cannot. And the items that people who can afford to do that are getting rid of products, have perfectly usable products themselves. I bet many people have, bought a new washing machine, and that's exactly up the street of D&G here. Is you bought a new machine, it's gone through its warranty, you've had it repaired maybe during warranty. Outside of warranty, then maybe after 5, 6, 7 years, you decide to change the color of your kitchen, or you want to upgrade the product. That's where we step in, because that's a perfectly reusable product. There's no need for it to last only 4 or 5 years. We come in, we repair it, we have teams of technicians that will fix it in their workshops and pass it on to a low-income family who cannot afford to purchase these items new. So that is primarily what reuse is. Yes, you hear about reusable bags in your supermarkets, but what we're talking about is the high-value items. Reuse. How many people buy a new house, or are they buying a second-hand? Do houses get reused? Do cars get reused? A lot of that comes down to the economic value. And I think when you look at the economic value within the warranty system as well, you're also looking at your own perceived value for that item. So what we do is we're charities that fill the gap, because people can't afford to buy new. People that can afford to buy new are discarding items that are perfectly reusable. So we stop them going into the recycling bins or the recycling hoppers. We get hold of them, reuse them, clean them up, repair them, test them, in the same way that the technicians do in D&G in service warranties, and we pass them on to low-income families. In a way, we're a furniture and electrical bank, as you have food banks today.
Great way to describe it, Craig. As I was coming into this, I was thinking really about talking about sustainability, but listening to your answer there, it's about sustainability, but it's also about poverty, alleviating poverty for folks. Really interesting to hear that. I was going to ask how big an issue this is, the waste problem is, but maybe you can touch on both waste and poverty as well.
Sure, yeah, well, we've done research in the past. It was always the forgotten waste stream. Everyone's interested in the waste for recycling purposes that you have, and on a weekly basis, go into your bins outside, get collected from outside your home every week. That's a big problem. But every so often, you get rid of the bigger items that are from your home as well. And what we've done with research that we've used with various universities in the past, we know that there are over 10 million furniture and electrical items discarded every year. We reuse about 3 million items as our own sector. So we're doing less than 20% of what the problem is. A lot of those items that are getting discarded, those 10 million items, are not reusable. The condition that they're in doesn't make it economic for us to repair and test them, or they're very old or damaged. But we know there are at least another 3 million items that shouldn't be in the waste system. And that's what we look at. And yes, you are right about the sustainability bit. The urgency came from a social disadvantage issue. But of course, we are in the same vein dealing with what's being termed a circular economy, where they want more products to be repaired, tested, and kept in circulation for reuse. We want access to parts so we can repair these items is a key issue. There's a whole issue, there's been a swathe of policies coming through from previously the EU, which now the UK has inherited and will continue to implement, which means that we have this thing about a circular economy, the right to repair, waste prevention activity, and all that fits with what the reuse sector does. We've got hundreds of charities around the country, from the north of Scotland to the tip of Cornwall, who are reusing products in their localities to help their local communities, and also to keep them local and to have a huge carbon, reduce the carbon footprint of these products being put on the market in the first place.
I think just to build on that point as well there, Sanjay, what Craig mentioned there in terms of, electrical waste and e-waste, it's probably the fastest growing domestic waste that exists. I'm sure, especially since we've all started working from home, we've got multiple laptops and monitors and various things as well. It is, becoming a real issue moving forward. And I think one of the biggest things that I've kind of, really noticed since starting to work with the reuse network is around the education side of things. So it was only this weekend, this Easter weekend just gone, I was talking to my brother about a new washing machine that he bought, and he didn't know what to do with his old one. He put it out the front of his house for a week with the assumption that someone driving by might want to come and pick it up. He did a quick search of the internet to see, what he could do in his local, authority in terms of disposing of that washing machine. But really, I think one of the biggest issues here as well is around that education piece and people kind of being aware of what happens to their, domestic appliances when they do move on from them and want to buy a new one. So I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle as well.
Thanks, Luke. And bringing more into the conversation, how does Domestic in General work with Reuse Network?
So we're very much at the start of our relationship with Reuse. So Domestic in General, we repair over 2.5 million appliances each year, and those are appliances that might otherwise have gone to landfill. We also have millions of registrations of appliances each year, and we're really beginning to work with the Reuse Network to A, start to educate ourselves, but then B, also start to educate our customers about these kind of options that exist to them. So we do replace about 500,000 appliances a year. So that's when, to Craig's point, they've come to the end of their life, and they are no longer economically viable to repair. Most of the time, we're quite good at recycling those appliances, but there's definitely more work that we can do, and also some customers, just actually giving them the option of letting them know about a local reuse centre for their old washing machines, old TVs, old sofas. That communication piece is kind of where we're first starting in terms of educating our customers. I think that Craig kind of touched on some of the elements there that we kind of want to get a bit more involved in. So we want to really work with the Reuse Network to start to think about policy moving forward, and also to start to think about how we can help them with access to things like spare parts, so that we are able to repair more appliances and have more of that circular economy that is a bit of a buzzword that's going around at the moment.
Fantastic. All right. And what's the ambition here? And maybe Craig can jump in with the Reuse Network. What's your ambition? Where do you want to get to?
Stay ahead of the game. I think, thinking about it, I've worked 20 years for this organisation, and although let's say a lot of the sector is driven by giving people that are outside of our market access to products that they couldn't afford to purchase, I think that's always not in the back of our minds. That's always at the forefront of our minds. But a lot of the issues we've had to deal with to steer, we've got members who are independent charities across the country, as I say, and we've kind of strategically aligned them and prepared them supported them to work with partners like yourself. You know, that this is very much a sort of a promotional activity at the moment, you know, and signposting people who are, you know, getting rid of products. I think strategically we've had to work a lot with the waste sector, because environmental legislation that's come through has changed how products are dealt with, and we've had to move our charities to move into to act as waste operators to a great extent, and we've not followed the flow of what's happening, but in some cases we've directed it. And from what I've seen with a lot of the issues now, where it's not the end of pipe solution, as I term what waste is, it's the end of pipe. You've gone through the whole process. The consumer has bought something, used something, discarded, and then the waste sector comes in. I think in this case, you know, with D&G as a sort of strategic partner at the front end, when people first buy the product and then something goes wrong with it and you fix it, warranties and everything else. A lot of our issue is a lot of the debate on circular economy and environmental issues is at the end of the pipe. And what we're talking about here is very much at the start. It's the consumer has just bought this product. They see the value of buying that product, of keeping it in functioning, having the warranty, and then eventually discarding it and reusing it as we want them to, and you're helping with the promotion of that. But the whole issue here is not an end of pipe issue. It's the start. It's the consumer's side, and a lot of the environmental legislation that's coming through at the moment doesn't need an end of pipe solution. It needs consumers to change how they purchase and use goods, the right to repair issue, but also leasing, rental, rather than outright purchase. All this comes into it as well. And I think aligning ourselves with yourselves is bringing us to the forefront of that consumer-facing change that's going to have to happen. You know, we were all seeing, outside of everything else that's wrong in the world today, we're all seeing this climate change happening, and we ain't gonna do anything about that unless consumers change their practices. And so it's really being part of that, you know, in a small way. Charities are there dealing with goods that people need and use the energy. You know, we're going through a cost of living crisis, or we're about to hit it right on the nose in a minute. You know, that's going to hurt the poorest more than anything. And we need to bring all consumers into this new way of living, with, you know, getting through, you know, avoiding climate change or the dramatic side of it.
Thanks, Craig. Luke, can I bring you into that question as well? So the ambition that D&G have here, really interested in hearing more there.
Yeah, I think it's actually, for me, it's quite interesting to think about it as an individual, as a person, but also as a corporate company as well. Because to Craig's point there, the majority of change is driven by consumers, and we are all consumers. And I think we do have that kind of individual responsibility to think more about some of those purchase decisions that we make. And I think back to one of the points I made earlier, that point about education, actually just educating people about, you know, what happens to this kind of waste, you know, when it reaches its end of life, and the options that are available to them. Really, the power is in those consumer choices that each one of us can make. And so for me, it's been quite an interesting kind of personal journey of learning about some of those areas that as a consumer I maybe wasn't totally aware of. And then kind of as a corporate entity, as Domestic in General, you know, ESG, environmental, so social governance is really important to all organisations at the moment. We're going through a process of really understanding our Scope 3 carbon footprinting activity, so looking at the full life cycle of all of the products that we insure and protect and repair end to end. And as part of that, it's really eye-opening in terms of where some of those you know, big carbon emissions sort of exist within that, and where there are, you know, big opportunities to help improve that. So in terms of our ambitions for the future, yes, you know, we have an ambition to reduce our overall carbon footprint. We want to reduce the white goods and electrical waste by helping appliances and devices to last for longer. But then we also, you know, really want to invest in, you know, other elements of that supply chain, whether it's through working with some of our other clients in terms of providing electric vans rather than diesel vans, and helping to further educate consumers on the choices that they have available to them. So I think that, you know, they're all really positive intentions and objectives. It's kind of baby steps to how we begin to get there.
Thanks, Luke. And Craig, can I ask one other question to you around around poverty and the poverty alleviation you'll be working on? I'm guessing anyone listening or watching this talk, very aware of food banks and the rise of food banks and demand on them. Are you seeing similar? So are demand levels increasing in the same way demand is increasing for food banks?
Oh yes, exponentially every year. um, it's quite strange. Because we are a membership-based organisation. We do annual sort of surveys of our members about what they did last year. How many products do you supply? How many households did you help? How many people did you train? Employ? How many volunteers did you use? And it's a surge every year. Saying that, apart from during the pandemic when everything was closed, we saw a 60% drop in I use the term turnover of product, as a thing. But we're talking now on that sort of current average year where the products we supply to low-income families is saving low-income families across the UK over 427 million. And there's 123,000 tons of CO2. So, and every year we've done the analysis, apart from the COVID year, it's a step up. It's a step up. It's a step up. So whether that is the problems getting the poverty problems getting worse, or it's we're doing our job and people are recognizing where we are. But saying that, we're noticing a drop off in we cannot reuse products unless people buy new products. That's the thing, because you buy a new product, you get rid of the old, and we get it. So we're the same as many retailers and manufacturers. They shift new boxes around, we shift second-hand boxes around. But it's steadily increasing, and we saw it through the last 10 years due to the financial crash in 2008 onwards. 2010, 11, 12 was huge time for our sector to really help people. With the cost of living crisis, it's going to be affording energy, affording food on the table. Have you got a table? Have you got a fridge to put the food into? Have you got a cooker to cook on? We're hearing stories now of people saying that go into food banks that they don't want to buy potatoes because they have to boil the water. So they want instant food, and that's the stories we're hearing. We're hearing, as with food banks, that they're struggling to meet demand at the moment. And so are our guys. And at the same time, the cost of living is impacting cost of fuel for delivery of these items has gone through. Our members are having to raise their prices, or at least charge delivery fees if they're delivering free of charge. So it's very difficult for charities to step in. This is the contentious issue. Charities step in where there's a gap in the state, and then the cost of living. I'm not going to point fingers here. For the sake of being politically correct here, but when we see spring statements that mean that people are going to be poorer, the first thing that comes to the mind of the charity sector, it's not just my charity or the charities I represent, but the wider charity sector is, back to the front line. And that's the issue. And is we're busy, but we don't, in the same way as food banks, we don't want to be here. There shouldn't be the need to have our charities fitting in and fulfilling what should be state prepared. Who are we getting paid for? We're selling items to higher income people to subsidise for the lowest income. So if we sold a second-hand item to you, we'd charge you £100 for it, so we could give an item similar free to somebody else. So we're having to really look at the business case and how we're going to survive and sustain, not just sustain people's homes, but sustain our own ability to deliver to those homes. So it's tough.
Thanks, Craig.
And the more people that support us and donate to us, like the staff and employees at D&G and wider, the better.
And that probably leads us really nicely into, for anyone that's watching this video or listening in, how can they get involved?
Well, it's great. I like Luke's piece there about the ESG. That's a new term that's been hit around all the corporates that are out there at the moment. And it used to be, 10 years, 15 years ago, I was working with people that were CSR managers and things, corporate social responsibility, where, companies were encouraging their staff, someone from the finance department to go and work with the locals, church hall and paint the doors or paint the walls and, and then, no, apply your skills for good. And I think that's the key thing that we're getting a lot with some of our retail and manufacturer partners is we do similar things. We run logistics, we run lorries, we run technicians who repair items, we have finance, we have retail, and it's trying to find the connect that staff, and many corporates, they do encourage staff to donate some time. And that's the key thing is if someone wants an idea of how to volunteer in the community to help the community, well, there's a lot of appliances in those workshops that need fixing, and there's a lot of technicians that you have that are out there. So, they could be, supported in going to work and using the skills that they have. And in some cases, an abundance of skills that perhaps they can pass on to others, to young kids that are coming in because they've left school early and want to be domestic appliance technicians. They need support. Our guys are training them and supporting them. So there's an abundance there of what could happen if you have spare time to support, electrical goods and furniture going to people's homes. But at the same time, is talk to your neighbours, spread the message. Really, if there's thousands of people listen to this, then there's thousands of people that can have a chat about it. As Luke was saying just now, he talked to his own brother this weekend. That's exactly it. Point them in the right direction. As charities, we can only do so much marketing ourselves because all our budgets are placed on keeping the business going and the operations and getting products into people's homes. We don't necessarily have the promotional marketing budgets to get out there, and so it's in the public domain all the time. So that public awareness is rising. That's the key thing. And if you've got any products you don't need, large appliances, sofas, don't throw them out. Don't put them out in the garden to get wet. Look at our website, put your postcode in, and find your local reuser. That's the easiest thing. That's what D&G, that's what Luke and D&G have been doing with their customers. It's exactly that. So staff can do the same thing. Staff can give some time to help and use the skills that they got.
And I think just picking up on that, obviously through the onHand app, then for those hopefully everyone who's listening to this has downloaded the app. You go on there, find a reuse mission. You can see on there where the local reuse hubs are and what they are taking in. And to Craig's point there, if you have got an old washing machine, if your neighbour's got one, if your brother's got one, then you can use the app to go on there and find that local reuse mission and donate those appliances. So it might seem relatively simple, relatively small, but those are some of the steps that really need to be taken in order to further educate people and to begin to make a dent in some of those issues around the environmental issues, but also the social poverty issues that Craig touched on.
Thanks, guys. And last question for you both. We always like ending with a responsible human or life hack that you do personally in your own lives that people could borrow. I'm wondering if I could pose that question to Craig. Do you have a responsible human life hack that you use that anyone watching can put in place?
I don't know. I didn't see this question coming, but it's not that I'm thinking about it. I don't want to throw something in, but I just think breathe. Give yourself a pat on the back. It's in a way, the work that we do, my team, they come from various different, aspects of career and work, but they feel great at the end of the day that they've helped somebody. And it's about patting yourself on the back and giving yourself time to breathe, because all the rubbish that's out there and the horrible environment we're working in some cases, or living in, there's so much bad out there. It's just sometimes to smile and breathe. I took a step away yesterday from a busy weekend and just walked out, sat in a cafe on my own without my kids, without my partner, and there's some nice music on, and I breathed for about 5 minutes over a cup of coffee, and I said thank you to the people. I said that was great. So I think just breathe and take stock and do good stuff.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you, Craig. I'm going to do that after this. And Luke, how about yourself?
I guess mine is probably compost it. So I got really into gardening when I moved house and got a garden. And as part of that, got really into composting. And I was amazed by how much stuff I was chucking in the bin previously that I then started putting in the compost bin. It's not just, your fruit and veg, it's your eggshells and your coffee grounds and all sorts of stuff that you can put in the compost. that you probably previously just shoved into a bag that went to landfill, that then actually ended up releasing methane because it was all covered over. That's 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide in terms of carbon emissions. So just a really simple step, like starting your own little backyard compost, and it's great for growing your own tomatoes as well. So that's my tip: compost it.
Fantastic tips. All right, thanks very much, guys. Thanks everyone for watching into this bite-sized chat. You heard it here, right? So how can you get involved? It's on the onHand app. If you'd like to get involved with the reuse network, use the filter for environmental, and all of the recycle and reuse emissions will turn up. Things like recycling and reusing via the reuse network, your washing machine, your bicycle, your bits of tech, even your leftover paint and carpet. All of that's available on the onHand apps. Just filter for environmental and you'll find the reuse network. And lastly, to Craig's point, just spread the word, right? So your mum needs a new washing machine. Well, has she heard of the reuse network? Your neighbor, your brother, you heard it here. Spread the word. That's the easiest step you can do. Thanks again for watching. Thanks very much, Craig and Luke. Great speaking to you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.